All right, so let's get into it. We're gonna go over this particular video and react to it. For the most part, this guy claims he has a couple of projects in which he will hire you for. Let's get into it. Let's check it out.
I have 5 side projects that will give you an unfair advantage at getting a job. It's not another to-do list app or some Netflix clone. It's an actual product for real paying customers.
Facts. I'm so done with to-do list apps. But yeah, let's get back into it.
So here's the deal. If you build one of these products, I will be your first paying customer. I'm also looking for a founding
Yeah, we're gonna see about some of these products. I might actually build one of these out and see what happens.
engineer at my new company. So if you build one of these projects, I'll automatically consider you for an engineering role at my company, if you'd like. Idea number 1, GitHub Productivity VS Code extension. Let's talk about what everyone is most embarrassed about, their GitHub Activity Monitor. The thing basically shows how much you've coded in the last year. Now, there's a dirty little secret about the GitHub Activity Monitor that nobody likes to talk about. It's actually a horrible way of determining how much someone has actually coded in the last year. And here's why. If you click into this button to see what they actually count as a contribution, you'll see they only include things that were not on a fork, so they had to be in the main repo. But then more importantly, they only count commits to the main branch.
Oh, interesting. I guess that makes sense. Like you can commit all day to the main branch, especially if it's your own single repository. I definitely branch mine out from main to develop and stuff like that because I like to do like releases in between some of my applications I'm building. So I like to branch it out and then merge it to the main branch once I go into production for it, and then have like a solid state of like what that particular release was. That's how I do it.
So if it has to be merged into main to count, then if you just raw dog all of your commits directly to main, then your GitHub Activity Monitor is going to look great. But if you meticulously think out and plan a PR over the course of a week, and then you squash and merge it at the end of it, you get 1 contribution.
Squash. I remember there was a big debate when I was at this one company. It's like whether you want to do a whole bunch of commits in your PRs and stuff and just show that the history, or you can just like squash it all and just show one particular commit that shows, hey, this is what I did. Yeah, I like the squash because it's much cleaner for the GitHub history and easy to track down. And yeah, if it's like a single PR for a single piece of work or a piece of feature that you're building out, yeah, that makes more sense. So I'm more on the side of squashing your commits than keeping all the commits that you post out there. It's like it doesn't make any sense. This is why we could talk about this so long, but this is the reason why I think the number of lines that you submit in code doesn't really matter, but what really matters is how much value you provide within that time span, because majority of the time I'm doing coding, I'm actually talking and ensuring that this is the right problem that needs to be resolved to ensure that they're getting ultimately what they want. Especially when I was doing more consulting stuff in regards to doing individual contributions, and as a developer, like I don't do too much of the development for the most part, but I do some development here and there. But ultimately, it's like understanding the problem that someone's having, you can resolve it so much easier. You might not even need as much code if you understand the problem, you get straight to the point. So yeah, number of commits doesn't mean anything to me really.
Here's what the GitHub Activity Monitor code tracking VS Code extension is going to do. 1, it's going to make a new Git repo for you called code tracking. 2, every 30 minutes, it will make a commit into that branch that just has a quick summary of what you worked on for the last 30 minutes. And so now you have a meticulous log of everything you did over every day for the last year, as well as a contribution for every 30-minute segment that you actually coded heads down. And lastly, this has to be an open source project because people have to trust what you're doing with the code and with the information. So if you build this and it's closed, that sounds cool, but it doesn't qualify. If you build this, I will be your first paying customer and I will pay you $10 a month for this product.
That's $10 a month. That's like $1. Probably even not even that. Like you can make it and be like, yo, I built this extension for everyone to use, and this is how many downloads I got. This is not that crazy.
Okay, project number 2, semantic search of my chat history. When's the last time you thought like, oh, my friend texted me the address, I completely forget. What was it? Oh man, my brother texted me that Netflix login username and password like a year ago. Like, what was it again? You have to scroll all the way back through your chat history, kind of guessing where to look, or you're just kind of like guessing keywords and searching them in your chat history, but you're never finding the thing you're looking for. It's a horrible experience. We all know it. Now, imagine you had a single app where you could just make a search with normal language and it would search your Slack messages, your WhatsApp messages, your Facebook messages, and it could just provide you the information. So,
Oh my gosh, I can just see all the security risks behind that. Yo, they have all access to all your social media messages. They can just search semantically throughout those different databases and platforms. Oh my gosh. The security risk behind this.
So it's not just keyword search, it's actual semantic search using artificial intelligence. Now, if you decide to build a website like this, I'll give you a few tips on it, but it's super important that you're very transparent with people's data and that you have a very secure process. So it's a difficult notion to actually scrape all this data from different sources from the get-go. Can't just be thrown together in a night because the stakes are pretty high. So it has to be open source, and you have to think through how you're going to collect people's data and let customers decide which data they want to share with you, which chat histories they want to share with you, and which ones they don't.
I'm wondering why they continue to bring this up as open source. Like, I don't think everything needs to be open source. Like, if you're trying to sell a product, you don't have to make it open source, because like ultimately someone's gonna probably clone it and use it for themselves. Yeah, that's great from an open source standpoint. If you ultimately want to make money from it, like, why make it open source? That makes no sense.
One way of getting this information is to just use a Chrome extension to kind of scrape whenever someone's on that website. You make a ton of requests to basically download the whole back catalog. That sounds like a terrible idea in my opinion. There's a GDPR mechanism in WhatsApp, at least I know, that you can request all of your data. As part of GDPR, companies have to let you to request to download all of your data. And if you do that, you just get all your chat history. So I think that's probably the better way to go, but you're gonna have to explore this yourself. Because these are incredibly encrypted messages, end-to-end encrypted, WhatsApp is extremely private. If you basically download their entire chat history and then save it in a database not encrypted, that makes it all kind of useless. So I really recommend that you think through your encryption strategy here. And if I was a beginner, I wouldn't try this one. So then when someone makes a query, you take that query, you turn it into an embedding. You can use that embedding to check your vector database to see all of the embeddings that are similar to it. You pull all of that into your prompt, and then you just ask the AI. This is called RAG. I'm not going to go into it.
Yeah, I've been doing some study on this kind of stuff, especially with LLMs. One of the model things I'm using, or I guess like it's an IDE for LLMs. Yeah, it's called LM Studio. So pretty much it's a free, IDE kind of search database, and you can use it for pulling in different LLMs locally so that you can play around with those LLMs. And I think there's some other things in regards to making it exposed as an API, stuff that you trained your LLM locally on and so on. It's like, I'm still getting into it, but RAG is one of the things that came up in regards to some of my research for LLMs. Pretty much it's just like your LLM on this data, and then now it's going to do some retrieval to get that information, and then everything is kind of put into like numbers for the most part, and then what numbers are kind of corresponding to what the number that you kind of like your question is going to be turned into as a number, and do those vectors kind of like match, and then it's going to semantically put those things together and find the right answer based off of the numbers. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Make it open source so we can take a look at it. Now, if you get this to work, because it's difficult, I'm willing to pay you $30 a month for this product. And I think it's a cool product, and I know other people would use it too. So that's why I'm going to have a website where I keep a rating of all the best entries for these project ideas. I'll pay for the one that's currently...
Bro, I think this is just a gag for people just to build stuff for free. I think that's what this is. That's what it sounds like. You want everything to be open source, and you want to put the URL to the GitHub repository so that you can just like spin it up and use it for yourself. That's what it sounds like to me.
It's called Win My Argument. It's Thanksgiving dinner, you're right? You're in a conversation with your sister. She's saying something, you disagree with her, and you just want to prove your point. So you say, studies show X. It's called AWS Supporter Chrome extension or something. Name it whatever you want. Now, the problem is I use AWS all the time, and AWS is a mess. It actually is the worst UI of any product I've ever seen in my life.
That's facts, man. Oh my gosh. When I was doing AWS, I was like, what kind of UI is this? I'm actually getting back into AWS. Mostly I've been working in GCP for the most part, and using is kind of like a subset of like GCP, the Firebase like stuff. Things what I'm doing with GCP, and I don't know, the UI is pretty decent. Dealing with AWS during the time, oh my gosh, like I almost feel like the same kind of UI aspect is kind of played over from their e-commerce stuff is into their AWS stuff. It just feels very janky and everywhere and not put together for the most part. It's like you're trying to confuse your customers on purpose. You're trying to discombobulate them for some reason. That's what it feels like when I was doing it like at least like 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm gonna be getting back into that little by little, so that might have changed since I've last touched it.
I don't think I've ever said about a company, that company needs more product managers. I think that about AWS. Everybody knows it. It's a mess. Its documentation often is out of date. The buttons to click, nobody knows. Here's what I would love to do. I would love to have a Chrome extension that has artificial intelligence baked in. It creates a chat window next to my AWS instance, and I can ask it questions. Not only will it be able to reference the docs, I mean, that's easy, like even Perplexity could do that, but I wanted to actually highlight the buttons and the step-by-step process I need in order to execute something I want to do. So
out of all these ideas, this one seems actually pretty awesome. The only thing different behind this, like I'll probably want to rely too much on AI on this. This was like just being up to date of like what is the latest on the platform. And because I mean, I think it was like Rabbit. Rabbit is one of the things actually Marcus Brownlee reviewed on it. Say it was one of the most horrible products ever. And I'm just like, it's facts. It's like it said it can do AI stuff, but in the background, what it's probably doing is using Puppet or some type of Selenium or something like that to actually find these particular steps and do these steps. But there is not really AI. It's actually a script that's getting written. Can AI actually navigate through an ever-changing website and be able to keep up to date of like the documentation, which is not the latest? The features continue to get pushed regardless, even though the documentation is not updated. I don't see this as reasonable from that standpoint. Maybe there's definitely a human element behind it, but for the most part, I think this would be a great idea. Maybe AWS can do that. I'm pretty sure like people have walkthroughs all through their sites. Why AWS doesn't have a walkthrough? Salesforce provide a feature where you can actually set up your guide to walk through the application that you build out and stuff like that. It would make sense that AWS have the same feature, but I don't know. It's been a while since I touched AWS like that. Let's see.
For example, I say, how do I change the TLS configuration on, this server? And it should be able to just show me, okay, first click this button, first search that, then do this, then do that. And it should highlight the buttons and it should explain it as it goes through. So it's going to be tough, but if you can execute on this one, I'm willing to pay you $40 a month. And I actually think that this has the potential to be one of the best products on this list because
Yeah, he said exactly right. This is probably one of the best out of all of this list.
Nobody knows how to use AWS, even if they pretend that they do. They know how to do like a handful of things, but no one knows how to do everything on AWS. And imagine you actually did know how to do everything. That would really unlock a lot of potential.
All right. Yeah, I say out of all of these, the AWS walkthrough feature is more up my speed of doing something. And I think that would be a really great project for someone to do. I think it would definitely be a lot of work given that there's so many different services with AWS and there's always ever changing UIs and stuff. So like I said, I kind of like prefaced this before and earlier in this video that Rabbit, if you guys heard of Rabbit before, Rabbit was really bad product that was put out saying that it was AI, but really it wasn't really AI. And one of the things for sure that it claimed to do is saying you can talk to it, it can, do your DoorDash, it can set up with your Uber, and pretty much it's your personal assistant that you can talk to. So given that there's so much work with all these different applications and websites and changing APIs and changing UIs, having UI to be able to recognize that, to understand, hey, this UI piece element was changed. Now that button is not there anymore. Instead of being on the left, it's on the right and so on. And to be able to understand that, I don't think we're there yet. There's some hallucination with AI. There's some kind of room for error for that. Like even talking to Alexa, there's errors with her to understand exactly what's being said. This one is definitely, I would say, durable. It'll be a lot of work. I would say difficult level is definitely high. I think it would be very useful and provide a lot of value to a lot of AWS architects and developers out there. Shoot, this probably even plays into anything, really any platform. They should have a walkthrough or tutorial walkthrough of how it's done. I can give you an example of like Unity. Unity does this too. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. I think, out of all of them, there's only one, but really great video for the most part. Thank you very much, Jason, for your video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.